Hey, this is Galdoc from the Project Brutality development team, and this is your February Dev Diary. In this one, we're going to talk about a couple of minor updates that have been going on, and I wanted to have a discussion about something that seems to be a little polarizing in terms of the art style of the weapons. A lot of the updates are happening under the hood right now. We have Final Crash going through the actual Project Brutality files and essentially trying to get rid of as much as he can without compromising the Project Brutality experience. The development of Project Brutality has been very organic, involving many iterations, many people, being inspired from other add-ons. And the problem is, with that kind of a history, there is sort of some accumulated baggage that has been coming along for the ride, much of which can safely be gotten rid of. The Plasma Zombie has gotten a couple of updates. I will leave those for you to find in-game. And there's a couple of weapons that are going through a slight redesign process right now, which are all essentially happening alongside the Enemy Overhaul. The weapon I'm going to sort of tease today is the upgraded DMR. In gameplay terms, the weapon won't change very much, but because we're planning an upgrade for it, I figured I would take this opportunity to take some of the art that both Metalman and Carrot have worked very hard on and animate it to clean up a couple of issues that I had when I first animated the DMR. You can see I've made a whole bunch of animations over here. These are just the ones for the centered animation, and you can also see that I've made as many or more for the dual wielding one. There's a whole lot of stuff to be excited about, but you'll see it in game, don't worry. The reason I'm bringing this weapon up though is because it illustrates one of the more controversial decisions that I've made in terms of my animation style, and that is the use of motion blur and anti-aliasing. So in order to actually see what's going on, I've added a cyan background for contrast. To begin, let's just actually look at the animation. It's just your basic reload. Now the thing is that if I pause this, you can see that I've got some blurring effects going on here. One of those is motion blur. If I turn that off, you get rid of that, but you still have a soft edge coming from the anti-aliasing. Putting both of those effects in, anti-aliasing and having motion blur, was a choice. The reason I chose that is this is what it looks like without those two things. If I go here, this is the same animation, but I've turned off anti-aliasing and I have turned off motion blur. To me, it's a lot blockier. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. The old school first-person shooter aesthetic relies heavily on the blocky aesthetic, and that's perfectly fine. But there were some artifacts that were showing up that I personally didn't like. Let me show you on frame 3 in particular. So if I go here to frame 3, so you can see that there is some tearing here. Now, of course, this goes by very fast, but this tearing is almost omnipresent. That is to say, if I go to many of these things, you can see to greater or lesser degree things like this, or things like this. The reason we have this tearing is because of the anti-aliasing. It's a math problem. Essentially, when After Effects is going to determine the color and opacity of each individual pixel, it's either going to be absolutely one pixel or its neighbor. And what you're seeing here with these little tears is the border where it's rounding one way on one side and rounding the other way on the other side. Now, when you have anti-aliasing, it gets rid of those tears. And you can see that this is much smoother here. Now, is that a good or a bad thing? That's an aesthetic choice. I can't tell you what you do or don't like. Me personally, I like this sort of smoother looking animation like this because I feel like it lends a whole lot of credence to what's going on here. That being said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I can tell you to like one or the other. What I can say though is that unfortunately, our engine can't really handle swapping between them, though it can for some things. You see, the engine internally can handle turning on or off anti-aliasing. However, this anti-aliasing is happening not inside the Doom engine, it's happening inside of After Effects. And though I can change it inside of After Effects, I can't change it inside of the engine without saving multiple copies of the same animation, and as you can see, we've got a whole lot over here. That would really bloat the file size, it would make everything much more cumbersome, edits would become super difficult to do. If we were doing something like in the Unity engine, that would be one thing, but that would require a complete recoding of the entire engine, and boy, you've probably heard of games that have tanked because mid-development they decided to swap engines. So yeah, that one's probably not in the cards. But because this issue has come up a bunch, I at least wanted to share with you what my decision-making process was and why I chose what I did. So that will wrap it up for this video. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and treat each other kindly. Take care.